Good morning, Year 3, Mr. Grocott here with some more maths for you this week. This week we're going to be looking at angles. So we're going to start off today with right angles. Now you'll notice in your email I also have sent across a right angle finder. You might recognise it. We used it before in our lessons. We called it Pac-Man because it reminded us of Pac-Man. So that will be a great help for you today. If you can't print it off at home, then you can use any square object really that has a right angle. You might have a coaster, which is a perfect square. Or you might have, I know some people have plates which are squares. You might have a card with square edges. Okay, so lots of different things in your house will have right angles that you could possibly use if you can't print off the right angle sheet. And without further ado, let's get started. So, a right angle is a quarter of a full turn. So here we are, I've got two lines joined here. And as you can see, I can make a full turn around this joining, okay? Now, an angle, for those who can't remember, is the measurement of space between two lines that are joined. So for example, this is an angle from here to here. This one, this is one, and this is one, okay? Now, a right angle turn is the really posh way of saying a quarter of a turn, okay? Don't know why we can't just call it a quarter of a turn. It's called a right angle turn. So, as you can see here, I've got a quarter of a turn here, so that is a right angle. Here's another quarter, so that's two right angles. Here's a third one, so now I've got three right angles, and my fourth one makes four right angles. So four right angles make a full turn, two right angles is a half turn, three right angles is 3/4 of a turn, and one right angle is just a quarter of a turn. Okay? So, let's have a look at this question. How many right angles can you see? So, I'm going to do this shape here. And then you're going to see if you can find any more out of these shapes. So, let me get my line tool. Okay, so in this shape, well, I've got this here, but that's not a quarter of a turn. Okay, because it's got that little gap there. But I have got one here. So I've got, let me use my pen for this, actually it's probably easier. I've got one right angle. This one's the same, it's got that extra line, which means that is not a right angle. We'll explain more about that later. And this is a right angle. Okay? So have a go now and see if you can find right angles in any of these other shapes. And welcome back. So, there's none in this oval because there's no corners. There's a corner here, but it's smaller than a quarter of a turn. If it was a quarter turn, it would be about here where the line went out. Not very straight. Be about there. Okay? It's like looking at a clock face and saying, well, there's 12. Where would 3 o'clock be? Or where would 9 o'clock be? So as you can see, this is not a right angle. This shape does have some right angles. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 quarter turns. And this one does because it has one right here. Okay, so well done if you've got those. Now, as you can see, compared to how these right angles are drawn, I've drawn my right angles a bit differently. Okay, and that's because right angles are special. Right angles represent a quarter of a turn, so to make it easy to identify, we draw them like that. Okay? And as you can see, it makes a bit of a square. And that's another handy way for identifying them, because if I try and draw a square here, it's not a square, so it's not a right angle. If I try and draw a square here, again, not a right angle. But there, I can draw a, not very straight, but clear square. So you know that's a right angle. Same with this one. If I try to draw one here, not a square, not a square. But here I can illustrate. I can make a pretty decent square. I'm quite proud of that. So that is a right angle. Okay? So those are not. But that one is. So these two shapes both have one right angle. So, can we find any right angles on these shapes? Okay? Let's have a look, have a go. And welcome back if you've had a go. So, let's start off with this shape here. Can I draw any squares? Can I draw any right angles? No. No, I can't. So that shape has no right angles. What about this one here? Looks a bit like our Pac-Man that we've got. Well, there's none inside the shape. I can draw a right angle. Right there. I never said that a right angle had to be on the inside of a shape. So as you see there, I've got a right angle. Let's try this one. I've got one. That one isn't one. That's not one. And two. So this shape has two right angles. And then with this one, there's actually a lot here. Let's see if you've got them all. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 8 on the inside, but I've also got 9, 10, 11, 12, because I've got 4 on the outside. Sorry about that. So yeah, we've got 8 on the inside and 4 on the outside, which means this shape here has 12 right angles in total. So, let's have a look at a different style question, because right angles don't just appear in shapes, okay? As I said before, a right angle is actually a quarter turn, okay? So it's not just shapes it's exclusive to. If you were facing north and you turned to the east or the west, then you would have done yourself. You would have done a right angle turn. You'd have turned 1/4. So here we've got Annie. Now Annie is facing east. She turns 1/4 turn. What direction could she be facing now? And how many right angles has she turned? Well, I can do that one straight away. I know that a quarter turn is a right angle turn. So if she's done 1/4, she's done 1 right angle turn. Okay? Now, as for what direction could she be facing? Well, if she did a quarter clockwise, so 1/4 turn, she'd be going, let's do a different colour, let's go red. So she's starting at east, she's doing 1/4, so she's going 1/4 of the way around. She's ended up at south. But she doesn't only have to go just that way, she has other options. She could go anti-clockwise. So if she did a quarter anti-clockwise, she'd go round 1/4 and she'd end up facing north. So what direction could she be facing now? Well, she could be facing south or north. Either way, she's only turned 1/4, so she's only done 1 right angle turn. Let's see if you can answer this question. Have a go. And welcome back if you pause. So, first things first, Jack is facing south. So I'm going to draw my arrow of Jack facing south. So starting from the centre, because that's where the lines meet. And there we go, south. He turns 1/2 turn. How many right angles has he turned? Well, let's answer that first. So, if one right angle turn is a quarter turn, a half turn must be 2 right angles, because it's 2 quarters make a half. 1 right angle is 1 quarter. 2 quarters is 2 right angles. So how many right angles has he turned? 2. What direction is he now facing? Well, if he's done a half, if I go clockwise, he's gone 1 quarter, 1/2. So he's facing north. And even if I went the opposite way, if I went anti-clockwise, I'd end up in the same place. I'd go 1 quarter, 2 quarters. So a half turn is basically saying turn around. Okay? So what direction is he now facing? He's facing north. Jack then turns 3 right angles. Okay? So it's important you pay attention to this word here. Then. That means we're staying at north. We haven't gone back to south. From north, he's now turning 3 right angles, okay? So, what 2 directions could he now be facing? Well, 3 right angles. If 1 quarter is 1 right angle, a half is 2 quarters is 2 right angles. 3 right angles must be 3 quarters, okay? So, let's get rid of my arrows so far so we don't make a big mess on here. So we're currently facing north. And he's turning 3 right angles. So let's start off with the clockwise direction. So we're starting at north. We're going 1, 2, 3. So he's ended up facing west. If I went anti-clockwise, we'd be going 1, 2, 3. And I've ended up east. So what 2 directions could he now be facing? He could be facing west or east. Well done if you got all of those questions correct. Moving on. Today, your silver is questions 1 to 6, and your gold is questions 7 to 9. And platinum, as always, will be on a separate sheet. If you have any questions, please get in touch and have a lovely day. Bye.